So you failed your Praxis teacher certification exam and you are totally bummed out and you're wondering, what do I do now? My name's Kathleen Jasper. I'm an expert in this area. It's okay. You are not alone. We're going to talk about it. Let's get started. All right, so you're trying to become a certified teacher. You're doing really well. You went in to take your teacher certification exam. You thought you were prepared and you took it and you were not successful. Maybe you got the unofficial score and you know that you were not successful on that particular administration, or perhaps you got your score report later because there was a writing component to your exam and you didn't get an unofficial score when you were finished, and you waited and the email came and you were not successful, and it is okay. First of all, you are not alone. First-time pass rates for the Praxis exam, especially the larger ones like the 5001 or the Praxis Core or the 7811, where there are multiple subtests inside of one giant test, those pass rates are about 50%. So if you have to retake this exam, you are normal. It's fine. I know it's disappointing. I know it's expensive, and I know that you really wanted to check that off your list and move on with your life, but you will pass. What we need to do now is figure out where you were low and how to attack those areas. Now, the first thing I want you to do if you were not successful on the test, and I recommend doing this after every test, is think about the things that made it hard for you on the exam. So maybe it was the Praxis Core and there were some grammar concepts that you couldn't remember. It was like a comma situation or a semicolon situation. Or let's say it was something on the reading exam. Maybe you took the Praxis teaching reading and there was a scenario about read aloud, think aloud or something, and you had never heard of that before. Maybe it's a problem on the math section of the elementary education exam. Perhaps it's a slope intercept question that you were not prepared for. Can't believe that there's slope intercept on an elementary education test. There is. So maybe you have to brush up on that. So what I recommend you do after your test is go home and sort of lay out the things that were difficult for you. And then I would just do a bit of Googling. I would ask ChatGPT about it. I would ask Google about it. And I would try to figure out what the test was assessing me on. For example, if it was the reading exam and there was a question about a think aloud strategy, that was probably testing your understanding of how metacognition and comprehension are related. And maybe you didn't know that. Maybe you studied the whole entire study guide and you skipped over that part because it's in there. But you were studying all this information and that one thing, you didn't study it. And there were like a couple of questions on it. Or perhaps it was some math skills or grammar skills that you need to brush up on. By understanding what you did wrong, writing it down on paper, Googling it, or asking ChatGPT about it, now you're figuring out specifically what really gave you a problem, and now you're fixing it like right away, immediately, which is proactive and the right thing to do. Now, you may have received your score report, and that's how you found out you were not successful, or perhaps you got an unofficial score when you took your exam. So exams that are just straight multiple choice often will give you an unofficial score. Not all the time. If the test is being looked at, if it's being sort of moved around a bit, not changed, just swapping out old items, putting in new items, you may not get an unofficial score. But typically, if it's just multiple choice, you should get an unofficial score once you submit your test and it's over. Now, if you had a writing portion on your exam, for example, the Praxis 5205 or the Praxis Core writing portion, they will not give you an unofficial score because they have to grade your writing. And currently, right now, August 9th, 2025, there are sections of the Praxis exams and other teacher certification exams that need a human grader. It's like the computer grades it and then a human grades it, and then they make sure that they are lined up and then they give you a score. That takes a little bit of time. And so you may not find out your pass-fail status until 2 to 3 weeks after you took the exam. Now, whether you got that unofficial score on the screen when you clicked submit or you had to wait for your score report, everyone gets a score report in their email. And it's really important that you have a look at it and you look at the content categories because it will mirror the test specifications and figure out where you are low. So let me give you an example. I'm going to have a look at my teaching reading book. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the content categories you will see on your score report. I am not going to project the ETS score report because it is their proprietary information. It is their trademarked document, and I am not going to risk copyright infringement for this video, but I want you to visualize it in your mind. I'm sure you've seen it if you've taken a Praxis exam or even a Pearson exam. You see all the content categories listed. There's a total number of points you could get, and then there's the points you got, the raw score. So how many you got correct out of the total for that section. So let me give you an example. For the teaching reading, the first section of the exam is phonological and phonemic awareness, and there are 13 questions. Okay. So on my score report, it's going to say phonological and phonemic awareness, 13 on the bottom. And then at the top number, typically that's how many you got correct. So let's say I got 9 out of 13. Well, I missed 4. 9 out of 13 is a 69%. Now, you can still pass with a 69%. A lot of exams, 69% is okay, but we really want to be towards the 75% or 80%. That means we are for sure in the safe zone. So if I only got 9 out of 13 correct, I know that I could do better in the phonological and phonemic awareness section. So I want to go back and revisit my study guide in that area. I want to Google more information on it. I really want to get out there and figure out what's going on there, okay? The next section is phonics and decoding, and I could have gotten 18 questions correct. Perhaps I got 16 or 17. Okay, that's good. I'm doing really good there. I want to continue to read it, make sure I stay on the up and up with that, but we should be good there. And let's say it goes on like that. Vocabulary and fluency, 21. Let's say comprehension of literary and informational text. There are 22 questions possible, and let's say I only got like 12. Okay. Well, I would need to go back and really have a look at that. Let's say that I could increase in all sections, which tends to be the situation. You could gain a few points in section 1, phonological and phonemic awareness, section 2, phonics, 3, vocabulary, 4, comprehension, and 5, writing. There's a few points you could pick up. Well, that means you need to go back in and really have a look. Now, for the writing section, you might see that it's out of 18 points, but there are only 3 questions. How does that work? Here's how it works. There are 3 teaching reading constructed response questions. 3. There are a total of 3 points that you can get for each one. So if you got a perfect score on the first writing prompt, that would be a 3. If you got a perfect score on the second reading prompt, you would have gotten a 3. And if you got a perfect score on the fourth reading prompt, you would have gotten a 3, right? So 9 total. There are 2 graders. So that would mean that grader 1 gave you a 9 and grader 2 gave you a 9 for a perfect score of 18. But that's not how it works. Pretty much nobody gets a perfect score of 18. So let's say in the first question, you got a 2. The second question, you got a 1. And the third question, you got a 3. That means you got 6 out of 9 or 12 out of 18 when you factor in the 2 graders. And you could definitely pick up some points there. You should be shooting for 2s and 3s in that section. And so you would definitely want to brush up on your writing. Unfortunately, in the score report, they do not tell you where you were low or what you should work on, but I would have a look at my writing videos and all the things that I talked to you about the constructed responses. I would think about what tripped you up on the writing and where you had a hard time explaining yourself and really try to work on fixing those areas. Now, there are writing assessments in some of the special education exams, some of the PE exams. It just depends on which exam you're taking. Some are just straight multiple choice. Some have a writing component. It depends on your state. It depends on your content area. It depends on what you're trying to get certified in. The thing that is most important is don't give up. Grab that score report, dissect it, look at it, see where you are low, and then hone in on those areas while also maintaining the areas where you are high. That's really important as well. We want to make sure we're continuing to read and understand in those areas, just in case we get asked a question that's a little bit more complex in that area, we're ready to go to answer it. Now, let me show you where to get our resources if you are interested in some test prep for your teacher certification exams. Just hop over to KathleenJasper.com. When you do, you'll see that we have tons of study guides. For the elementary education alone, this is how many study guides we have. So we've got you covered. We also have online courses, and in our online courses, there are hours of prep videos. It comes with the digital study guide. It's fantastic. We also have audio courses for selected programs. And then beyond that, I have tons of free webinars on subject area exams. Also, your everyday stuff in the classroom, like classroom management, lesson planning. I have tons of leadership videos if you're trying to become an AP or a principal. Lots of programs for that. So definitely check out our website for more information and resources. All right, so that's it for today. Let us know how you're doing in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.